Hello, in this video we're going to talk about motivational interviewing and how it affects the brain and behavior. Motivational interviewing is obviously really effective in helping individuals to obtain change, but there are a few things that you may find interesting on how motivational interviewing leverages brain plasticity and pathways and the built-in system and uses the built-in systems of reward and motivation. Now, dopamine has often been referred to as the feel-good chemical in the brain, but researchers more recently understand it as more of a motivational chemical to push one to engage in a particular behavior. Now, this is something we want to work for us and to have our clients to be more motivated toward behavioral change. Now, when individuals articulate their desires or their reasons for change and envision positive outcomes, this can help with this motivational drive to actually do something about it. And it's through typically this dopamine pathway. This is the underlying process. As an example, when a patient talks about how quitting smoking might improve their physical health, the anticipation of these positive outcomes can really increase dopamine levels and impel their desire to pursue these changes. Also, in motivational interviewing, it can be really effective in reducing cognitive dissonance. It helps to reduce cognitive dissonance by creating discomfort when someone is holding a conflicting belief or behavior in their mind. When we align a person's behaviors with their goals and values, motivational interviewing can help reduce this conflict because it promotes more of a coherence and stability, and their thought processes start to become more coherent. As an example, a person who wants to be healthy but smokes will experience cognitive dissonance. This is because these are two contradictory beliefs and feelings. But through motivational interviewing, we would explore both sides to resolve these conflicts, which would lead to a more integrated and consistent mindset. This really involves the prefrontal cortex in planning and decision making, which is a part of the brain that typically is referred to as the CEO of the brain because it makes the decisions. And it's more involved in goal-directed behavior. When we talk about these things with our clients and allow our clients to open up and discuss and talk about their point of view and both sides of their conflicting views, this typically will enhance the ability for the client to see clearly what they value most and what they want to do most and what they need to do. Now, motivational interviewing, as you can imagine, supports and strengthens self-regulation by strengthening the executive functions in the brain. Self-regulation skills are enhanced when the clients start to engage successfully. Goal-directed behavior means that there is success toward positive behavioral change, which also means that there's enhanced impulse control. As an example, if a patient wants to set realistic goals or anticipate different obstacles, and they decide to develop some strategies to overcome them, that will enhance one's ability to self-regulate their behavior, such as watching their diet or giving into their substance abuse, whatever it might be. So that is success. When good decisions are made, the client is relying more upon the executive functioning of the brain, the prefrontal cortex in particular, to really help with this process and getting the brain more involved. Now, if we look at the brain, we can also understand the role of reducing resistance and defensiveness reactions by creating a non-judgmental and empathetic environment, which means that the amygdala, which is part of the limbic system in the brain, would typically lessen in activity as it is responsible for emotion as one of the emotional processing centers that involve fear and anxiety. So when a patient feels understood and not just there among the activity and less emotional, because the activity in the brain would decrease and reduce these feelings of a threat, and the individual will most likely reduce resistance, which allows for more of a collaborative, open, and productive conversation about change. Also, motivational interviewing can help with neuroplasticity as well. Motivational interviewing encourages the brain to form neural connections by supporting new behaviors and thought patterns surrounding what they are working toward a goal or a behavioral change. As you can see with patients, that we need new coping strategies and to have the patients understand the new coping strategies, and when they use them, the brain changes as a result of this behavioral change. They'll become better able to manage stress, and again, this is the underlying process of change. The brain is plastic, and that works to our advantage. Now, when we help clients achieve and increase their self-efficacy and confidence, their brain will reinforce the circuits associated with self-confidence and go toward goal-directed behavior, which is the prefrontal cortex again, but also the anterior cingulate cortex, which are involved in these functions. The prefrontal cortex again and the anterior cingulate cortex are crucial in understanding self-efficacy, which refers to an individual's belief in their behavior to succeed in specific situations or really to accomplish a task. Now, the prefrontal cortex and ACC, or the anterior cingulate cortex, works together to influence self-efficacy they collaborate. These two parts of the brain collaborate to manage cognitive control and regulate emotions. This interplay is really crucial for managing positive faith in one's abilities, even in the face of challenges. These regions also help individuals adapt their behavior based on feedback and changing circumstances. This adaptability is a key component of self-efficacy. Also, motivation and goal achievement is really important in the ACC's role. The anterior cingulate cortex has a large role in motivation, but it complements the prefrontal cortex's role in planning and decision making. So when we have high self-efficacy, it involves a sustained motivation and effective planning facilitated by the interaction of these two brain regions. Now, when practicing motivational interviewing, you should see some improvement in emotional regulation. And this largely comes again from the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. Both these parts of the brain are sometimes competing. Neuroscientists often refer to the brain as a team of rivals. The limbic system is more of the emotional center, while the prefrontal cortex, as we know, is more goal-directed or decision-making and higher functioning part of the brain that tries to keep our behaviors in check. But emotional regulation will improve, typically within motivational interviewing, as patients really identify their emotional state, develop skills to help them, and then work on modulating the activity of the limbic system, and being focused on goals will help them to modulate the activity of these systems, the limbic system, and its emotional responses. A patient may learn to identify and articulate their emotions, which leads to improving their ability to manage their stress or anxiety, which will alternatively lead to better decision making. Basically, motivational interviewing affects the brain in different profound ways that can be very useful for a practitioner to know and to understand. Because of the neuroscience and behavior involved, we can understand the underlying processes. And that's why I wanted to share this video. The reward pathways are activated in change in individuals that work toward change. Remember the process of change, or the trans-theoretical model, from pre-contemplation to contemplation and then forward. Dopamine is involved in this as we are trying to help patients or clients work toward goal-directed behavior and be motivated for such things. As we are driven toward goals and decide to make a change, dopamine is the key neurotransmitter of pushing us toward a goal and driving us toward to achieve that goal. It reduces cognitive dissonance and helps the client to align behaviors to diminish this mental conflict of holding two competing values, thoughts or ideas or motivations. It also helps with self-regulation as well, because it strengthens the executive functioning of the brain and decreases impulses and helps us to keep it under control. It improves planning. Now, motivational interviewing would also decrease the activity of the amygdala, which lowers the defense reactions that a patient or client may have. It really changes our brain, and it changes individuals that we work with and changes them on a neuronal level, because new neural connections are made in their brain when behavioral changes are being made, and a client will enhance their confidence as well as they make a behavioral change in their successful and sometimes small steps toward behavioral change. Alright, we'll see you in the next video.